All right, hey everybody, Sajid. Oop, oh, camera's down here. Hi, yoo-hoo. Oh, you know what that means? It's gotta be time for another unboxing video. So I have like the N64 had a lot of great games on it, and they've been ported and remastered in a few different places, so a few different platforms. But the one thing that hasn't really had a remaster and really needed one is the N64 controller. It's something that just really hasn't aged that well over the course of time. Those three handles never made any sense to me, or to anyone except maybe some like aliens from another planet with three arms or something like that. But anyway, one company has set out to modernize the Nintendo 64 controller design, and today we're going to find out whether or not they've succeeded. So this is the Brawler 64 controller by Retro Fighters. It says it's for PC, Mac, and Switch. I am also gonna briefly try to see if it works on Xbox, because I feel like anything that's PC compatible should also work for Xbox, because Xbox controllers themselves work both ways. But you're reading the box that it says here. It says introducing the Brawler 64 gamepad USB version by Retro Fighters. I did get the USB version, although it does come with there is a wireless version. But this was a little cheaper, and I guess a little more properly relive the N64 days. Got to have that wired controller. I have been leaning toward wired controllers lately anyway, to deal with like input lag, and there's just... I personally, I feel there's like a better chance for them to work as opposed to wireless controllers, so... If I don't necessarily know what I'm getting into, I feel a wired controller is best. But they do have that wireless option if you're so inclined. I'm reading this way because it would be a little tough for me to read the other way. You are in the hands of my new Spyro statue, by the way. I got him to hold the webcam, so tread lightly. But anyway... so it's a completely redesigned N64 controller with next-gen features and abilities. Here, I can have the box right there, and then that'll work for you guys. Features and attributes, providing a new and comfortable way to play your favorite classic N64 games. The next-gen style controller has a completely updated look over the original N64 controller. The Retro Fighters Brawler 64 gamepad showcases a two-handle design and features responsive buttons. Two handles. Wow, what a concept. D-pad and a comfortable analog stick. The Retro Fighters Brawler 64 gamepad offers a new way to play your classic N64 games. I'm pretty sure that exact sentence was earlier, but okay. Featuring an ergonomic and comfortable two-handle design. Yep. Ultra-fast turbo button. Turn it on when you need it. Turn it off when you don't. Compatible with PC, Mac, and Switch. Comfortable and responsive analog stick. Stylish matte buttons. Responsive and high-quality D-pad. Reposition Z triggers on both the left and right side of the controller. So they've got those L and R buttons, but then those back triggers are both the Z button, which is kind of cool. And then ergonomic placement of the B and A buttons. All right. But yeah, I'm very, very excited. This came in earlier today, and I have just been... I've had quite a temptation to tear this thing open and really try this thing out and hold it. Something went flying just now, but I'll deal with that in a second. And this is what the back of the box looks like, if you were curious. I don't know if I showed it, but it's just a wall of text. Very exciting, which is kind of another reason why I didn't hold it up. But let's take a look at this thing. Open it towards you. Okay. All right, we see that our first peek is the cord and that peeking up. Some instructions or something at the top. Ooh. Okay. All right, get these out of the way for now. Okay. It's a little bit of stuff on the stick. So, okay, right away the feeling of it is like a little disappointing to me, I think. It's a little, it feels very hollow, very plasticky, not very durable. So those are just some concerns right there. This D-pad seems pretty good. Yeah, these are very cheap feeling buttons, unfortunately. The stick is okay. It snaps right back into place, which is nice. Very snappy. And the grip on there is pretty decent. That could be something like I had that Fighting Commander Octa controller for the Xbox a while back, and I wasn't too sure about that stick at first, but I've grown to like that stick a lot. So I feel the same thing could happen with this one. I am sorry about how the audio on that video turned out as well. I was using some knockoff earbuds that have that microphone attached to the cord, and it was just very, very bad, and I apologize for that. I am using a very fancy mic right now, though, so hopefully my voice is coming out just fine. Okay. Yeah, aside from the stick and maybe the D-pad, everything just feels kind of cheap. That said, it's gotta be more comfortable than holding a N64 controller. Like, I do like button positioning and everything seems to be fine and within reach. There's just like a deceptive amount of travel distance on these L and R buttons, because you could see there's like, they pop out quite a bit over here and they have to go all the way, I don't know. So pressing those could end up being a little muddy. Okay. And there's the back of the controller if you were curious. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this was going to feel a lot better than it does. But I do think it accomplishes what they set out to do, because this is a layout that could work very well and be very comfortable. I guess it's similar, if you treat the C buttons to like a C stick, I guess it's similar in layout to a Wii U Pro controller, having those on top. But it's also like the Fighting Commander controllers from Hori with like a 6-button design, and so this should be a decent controller for fighting games of all kinds. You just don't have a ZL and ZR. It's just one Z button, so that would be the trick to that. But yeah, okay. Well, we can only get so much of an impression by just holding it and just messing around with things. Yeah, that stick's pretty good. I'm okay with the stick. We can only get so much of an impression by just continuing to do this and mess with it, though. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up a few games and try them out. Okay, so here we are on Nintendo Switch. I have the Brawler 64 controller plugged in and I'm using it. One thing I'm noticing pretty quickly is that the D-pad is pretty muddy. It's not quite as responsive as you would hope it would be. And I'm having trouble moving, especially to the left, I think. Yeah, that just took 3 presses. So yeah, it's missing some presses on the left of the D-pad. When I had to put in my password for the eShop earlier, I found it easier to actually use the control stick as opposed to the D-pad, and that's not good. That's not good at all. But we're going to go into the Nintendo Switch Online 64 app, mess around with a few games. And another thing I wanted to mention, that little slip that that was in the box that I didn't really look at, and it includes a page of macros, which is sort of a translation guide in terms of like what button would be used for what on which system or device that you're playing on. An interesting thing I noticed for the Switch, it has A, B, so obviously A and B or A and B, and then the bottom two C buttons are X and Y, and then the top two C buttons are actually the plus and minus buttons, so you need to go over there, because the start button acts as your home button for that. So that's going to take some getting used to. I think now that we're in... I think that's actually used for... I think that's used for some things on in the Switch or in the 64 app here, so that could be interesting. What should I play? Probably just some Ocarina of Time to start with, I feel would be best. Hopefully the sound levels are good since I am using a different mic. The classic. Okay, now if I press start, that's still acting as the home button, so we're gonna have some issues, I think. Okay, I do have a very early file that I just trying to... Okay, I'm inside the Deku tree. Deku tree. Okay. See it? That's a bottom C button, but we're using the C buttons to pause, which is not... That's not what we want. I'm sure there's a way to map that, perhaps. Or hopefully there is. There we go. Now see, Navi or Navi wants me to press up on the top C button, but that just pauses the game, so this isn't mapped correctly for Switch, which is disappointing. Okay. So the left Z buttons, which is like ZL, is working for Z targeting, but the right ZR is not. So then what could I even press? Oh, she's doing that because I'm by the web. I was wondering what was prompting that. Do some Mario Kart 64. How can you come in here and not do Mario Kart 64? But it's not looking good for this controller right now. Gonna do Bowsy. Okay. Just being basic for now, because we're just trying to test controls out. We're not trying to be too ambitious. I got the boost, that's fun. Okay. I didn't drift much back in N64 days. Didn't really know how at the time. God, all the memories with this game. Okay. I mean, this can basically be played normally, because I don't think this ever made much use of the C buttons anyway. So this is fine. That ZL is working to launch items. You know, I just always felt like the turning was pretty responsive on its own in this game, and just like, I was just a children. Was not adept in the ways of Mario Kart yet. This was like my first N64 game. Like Christmas in '98, I think I got N64, and with this and like some NBA game. Oh. I turned the music off. No one should ever want to do that. There we go. Hit a wall with it eventually, but that's fine. Alright, I mean, Mario Kart's playable, and like theoretically anything that doesn't really make use of the C buttons should be fine for you. But the problem is, if something does, it doesn't work properly. It's not properly mapped for that on the Switch. I feel like doing Banjo-Kazooie for some reason. Shouldn't we all? There's been a lot of discourse lately about the audience being there for a Banjo game. I have been, I do have this on Xbox that was part of Rare Replay, and that's where I've actually been playing it, but... There we go. I'm trying to think if this makes use of the C buttons, but still, that's kind of an oversight, not having more like your plus minus buttons here, so that you have to do that. There's that. Okay. Is it normally left on the left C button to do that? That seems weird. But I don't know, I'm sure the way I was doing it on Xbox was unusual too. Right, that's the pause button. Okay. So you can move the camera, so it's hindering camera movement here is what it is. That's a little unfortunate, obviously. We don't want bad camera, and this was one of those games where the camera would get stuck on walls, which is not something that should ever happen. Whoops. Okay. I'm sure that's preventing us from using potentially using some of Kazooie's abilities as well, because they seem to be activated with the... Some of them seem to be activated with the C buttons while we're crouched. Oh my god. Who programs this for the camera to get stuck on walls? It's so silly. It's such a silly thing to have happen. Yeah, that's fine. We don't need to see all that. Kind of rude to just have like every time you save and quit to just be like, oh, game over. Can't finish the game in one sitting, you coward. How dare you? I had to actively load that, I guess. This thing's really weird with how stuff works. But yeah, so because they don't have like a plus or minus button, everything is just kind of not mapped correctly. Start doesn't do what you want it to do, and the top two C buttons don't do what you want it to do for this controller. And that's not good. I'm pretty disappointed so far. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try and find something on PC to do with Project 64 to see if that's better and see how that came out mapped. Okay, so hoping this is capturing correctly, I've got Super Smash Brothers on Project 64 here. D-pad, you can't... I just mapped the controls, but now it's not letting me... Oh, is it just because... Well, no, I should be able to go down to data. Why is it the C buttons doing that? That can't be right. Did I do this wrong? I changed the C buttons. No, it says that's right. That's weird. Okay. Alright. I don't know why that's... The stick and D-pad are not working for Project 64 at all right now. Even the C buttons are not working on the screen. So let me try remapping. It's not letting me move on the screen. I feel like something's wrong with this ROM as well, because I'm not getting any sound on my end, and it doesn't look like any sound is being output. So let me try another game real quick.
Interplay presents.
I'm not getting audio through... Oh, no, I saw it. I'm going to turn this way down because last time I had issues with... It was mainly because of my previous mic, I think, not being able to go over it in volume, but... Do I need to... Oh my gosh. Okay. Do I need to remap the controls? Or, like, what do I need to do? It says PS3/PC gamepad. That's interesting. It did not say that before. So that's a good sign, hopefully. I'm just remapping everything to make sure. The start button worked, because it got me out of that, but the D-pad... See, D-pad inputs are not changing when I'm putting these in, but they still don't work. I can't play this game. Alright, I'm going to try one more game here, and if this doesn't work, this controller's kind of a write-off. I don't really... I don't know why it seems like I'm not getting any sound through, unless it thinks I have a headset plugged in with this mic for some reason. Okay, I see that you guys are getting the sound. Okay. I'm just checking input settings. That appears to still be right. It still says PS3 PC. Okay. Okay, we have established that the start button works. D-pad does not work. The stick does not work. Unplug it and plug it back in or something? Okay, the A button works, but... I can select things, I can press start.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen,
This is going to be very interesting.
ready?
And why do I have no sound? I think it's because it's... C buttons aren't... I don't think this one... Okay, I can block.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Judging score. Win 1 point. Ready? Fight.
I'm trying to do a grab, and it's not acknowledging that I'm doing both of them.
Excellent throw. Win 2 points. Ready? Fight. Cool. Nice throw.
Okay. I don't think the controller can acknowledge that I'm pressing two buttons at the same time either, which is a problem for this.
Fight.
Because that's how you do grabs.
Killer move. Cool. Excellent throw. Win 2 points.
Okay.
Why don't you try again?
Alright, well, that's that. Maybe, I guess I'm a little curious. I could try to find a Steam game for this to work on. But this is this is pretty bad. This is not looking good. Okay, so I'm here with Guilty Gear Strive, which I have through Steam. So the good news is the D-pad in here works, and the stick works. as you would expect. Look, the ridges and everything, that's working. The D-pad is still a little muddy and not registering some of my inputs. But the weird thing I noticed is that A and B seem to be flipped. I was using B to acknowledge things in the menu and to progress, and then A was making me go back. And A is on the bottom of this controller, so I have no idea why it was making it, that would be the case. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, and it does seem to be the same. It does seem to be the same situation where the top two C buttons are start and select. This is just so weird. I don't understand. And I don't think it's letting me press two of the buttons at the same time either. Because I isn't that, or maybe this is a... Triggers aren't doing anything. Start doesn't do anything. I forget if this is one of the games where grab is two of the face buttons or if it's like L or something. But L isn't doing anything. R is doing the strong attack. Oh yeah, that's the grab. Okay. Alright. But yeah, the buttons, I just don't understand why the buttons are flipped. And then the D-pad isn't... So this is just... With the way they did this, it's just not appealing to use anywhere. They really should have added like a plus and minus or start and select in addition to the start button that's already here, and then you could use these controllers correctly. But the way it is now, they're just not mapped correctly for anything. And I tried to map it on projects. I mean, I could map it here and fix it, but I'm not intending on using this controller for Guilty Gear Strive, so I'm not going to mess up my button mapping and stuff just for that. I was just trying to test how this thing starts, and I tried to map things on Project 64, but the stick and D-pad just did not work in there, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, this is rough. This is very rough. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm really disappointed in this controller right here. I was really like, one look at this and I was really picking up what they were putting down, like modernizing that N64 controller design for current systems to be able to play those older games with a control scheme that's both familiar but also more modern. I I really got that. I really wanted to do that and enjoy that. But the way they designed this controller and the way the default button mappings work, it doesn't accomplish that on any platform it's compatible with, and any platform you try that on. It has a start button, but that just functions as like your home button and not as an actual pause button. You have to use these top two buttons here for start and select. And that ruins the entire point of this controller. If they had, because like these are just turbo and clearing the turbo, but if they had a start and select in addition to this, then they can actually use then you would actually be able to use these C buttons up here for their intended purpose. But you can't do that. And then the attempt that I made to remap that and get this to work as it should on Project 64 just didn't work at all. After remapping, I couldn't get the stick or the D-pad to work with any of the games that I tried, and I'm not sure why. And then for some reason when I played a game on Steam, it flipped my A and B buttons so they were the opposites of each other. And I mean, that can easily be fixed with mapping, but I wasn't going to do that for that particular game because I honestly don't want to use this controller. It's a lot cheaper feeling than I thought it would be, down to just like how hollow the controller feels. The button feel isn't that great. The only thing I kind of like is the stick. The stick is pretty nice, but everything else I could kind of just do without. And this is a letdown. Maybe one of the more disappointing controllers I think I've ever gotten, and I'm really sad about that. I still have the consolation is I still have my Fighting Commander Octa that works really well, and as I have proven in a previous video, although a few things went wrong with the production of that video and audio quality and things like that, the controller itself works. It works really well. It works just fine. And that 6-button stuff, you can get that to work, even in Project 64 and stuff, and it's great for fighting games like Killer Instinct and Guilty Gear Strive and whatever else you want to use it in. And you can make that one work. And that controller is fantastic, but this one is just really, really disappointing. So that's the end of my review here. What controllers have you guys been trying out? If you got any interesting controllers, maybe some that can fill a modern N64 controller niche, you can let me know in the comments below, or we can just talk about some other favorite controllers of yours. Aside from this, I've had a grudge against some Power A controllers. At least Switch ones that have been having stick issues that aren't necessarily drift. It just either doesn't acknowledge forward input, or it thinks forward input is backwards input, and that's not good. But we can keep talking about controllers and games, and I mean, it's what the channel is for. So if you want to talk about something or share something, let me know in the comments below, and we can get things going. But until I get the next weird thing or have another fun game to show, I am Sajin, and I'll see you next time. Good night.